You won't believe how perfect everything seemed between Melody, Shari, and Kimmi from the outside. They were the best of friends, laughing together, supporting each other, and celebrating each other's successes. They were the definition of friendship goals, the kind of bond people envied. Their connection appeared unbreakable, built on trust, loyalty, and shared experiences. No one could have predicted the storm brewing beneath the surface. Let me tell you, this is how it all started. It was just another day, another event, and another gathering where Melody and Kimmi were the life of the party. They were inseparable, finishing each other's sentences, exchanging knowing glances, and radiating positivity. People admired their bond, believed in their friendship, and even looked up to them as role models too. Everyone around them, they were more than friends, they were sisters by choice. But behind the smiles, behind the laughter, behind the public display of affection, there was a tension that no one saw coming. But here's the shocking part: that tension wasn't new, it had been there all along, hidden beneath layers of politeness, masked by forced smiles, buried under years of pretending. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there, growing silently like a poison that would eventually explode. There were signs, small hints, fleeting moments that went unnoticed: a hesitation before a hug, a forced laugh at a joke, a moment of silence after a compliment. Looking back, the clues were all there, but no one paid attention. No one realized that their friendship was already cracking, already breaking, already falling apart. This is where it gets interesting. The root of the tension wasn't what people expected. It wasn't about betrayal or jealousy or competition. It was about something deeper, something more personal, something that had been festering for years. It was about unspoken words, unresolved issues, unhealed wounds. It was about trust that had been broken, expectations that hadn't been met, and loyalty that had been questioned. It was about feelings that had been hurt, boundaries that had been crossed, and respect that had been lost. What makes this story different? It wasn't about one big incident that destroyed their friendship. It was about a series of small moments that chipped away at their bond piece by piece, day by day. It was about misunderstandings that were never cleared, assumptions that were never challenged, and resentments that were never addressed. It was about two people who loved each other, but didn't know how to communicate, didn't know how to heal, didn't know how to forgive. It was about a friendship that was dying long before anyone realized it. But here is the craziest part: everyone believed they were fine. No one saw the cracks, no one noticed the distance, no one sensed the pain. They were so good at pretending, so good at faking it, so good at maintaining appearances that no one suspected a thing. They smiled for the cameras, laughed at the jokes, posed for the pictures. They played their roles perfectly, never breaking character, never slipping up. They were actresses in their own story, performers in their own drama, liars in their own friendship. This is how the calm before the storm looked: perfect, beautiful, flawless. It was the silence before the chaos, the peace before the battle, the stillness before the hurricane. It was the last chapter of a story that was about to change forever, the final moment of happiness before everything fell apart. It was the end of an era, the end of a friendship, the end of a lie. But destiny took an unexpected turn, a turn that no one was ready for, a turn that would change everything. The truth was about to come out, the lies were about to be exposed, the masks were about to fall off. Melody was about to reveal a secret so shocking, so explosive, so devastating that it would destroy everything Kimmi believed in. It would shatter her world, break her heart, and leave her reeling. It would end their friendship, ruin their bond, and change their lives forever. And that's where the story truly begins, with the truth bomb that no one saw coming, with the revelation that no one was prepared for, with the end that no one expected. Because when the calm before the storm is this perfect, the storm itself is always more devastating, more destructive, more unforgettable. You won't believe how cleverly the tension was hidden between Melody, Shari, and Kimmi. It was like a silent shadow lurking behind every smile, every laugh, every friendly gesture. From the outside, everything looked perfect to two women who genuinely cared for each other, who shared their joys and sorrows, who supported each other through thick and thin. But if you looked closer, if you paid attention to the small details, you'd notice that something wasn't right. Something was off, something was brewing, something was about to explode. Let me tell you, this is how it all started. The first hint of tension appeared at a casual gathering. It was supposed to be a fun evening full of laughter and light-hearted conversations. Melody and Kimmi were at the center of it all, as always, talking, laughing, and sharing stories. But then a casual remark from Melody hit a nerve. It wasn't meant to be hurtful, it wasn't meant to be offensive, but Kimmi's smile faltered for just a second. It was so brief that no one Notice not even Melody, but in that tiny moment a crack appeared in their friendship, a crack that would only grow bigger with time. But here is the shocking part, that wasn't the only incident. It happened again and again in small, almost insignificant ways. A joke that was taken the wrong way, a compliment that felt more like an insult, a piece of advice that sounded more like criticism. Each time Kimmi smiled, laughed it off, pretended it didn't bother her. She convinced herself that she was overreacting, that she was being too sensitive, but deep down the hurt was piling up, the resentment was growing, and the anger was building, and Melody had no idea. This is where it gets interesting. The tension wasn't one-sided. Melody was feeling it too, but for different reasons. She felt that Kimmi was becoming distant, that she was holding back, that she was no longer the same friend she used to be. Melody couldn't understand why. She tried to reach out, tried to reconnect, tried to bring back the closeness they once shared, but Kimmi's responses were polite. Something, a comment, a whisper, a remark that cut deeper than any insult. It was Kimmi talking to someone else, sharing her side of the story, painting Melody as the villain. She was calm, she was composed, she was convincing. She played the victim perfectly, spinning a narrative that made Melody look manipulative, selfish, and cruel. This is where it gets interesting. Melody could have walked away, she could have stayed silent, she could have kept pretending, she could have maintained the illusion, but she didn't. Something snapped inside her. A line was crossed, a boundary was broken, a limit was reached. She couldn't stay silent anymore. She couldn't keep pretending. She couldn't let the lie continue. She had to speak up. She had to defend herself. She had to tell her side of the story. And once she started, she couldn't stop. The words poured out of her like a flood, raw, emotional, and devastating. What makes this story different? Melody didn't just reveal the truth. She exposed everything. She didn't hold back. She didn't sugarcoat. She didn't soften the blow. She spoke about the betrayal, the lies, the manipulation. She spoke about how Kimmi played the victim, how she spread rumors, how she turned people against Melody. She spoke about how she tried to fix things, how she tried to save their friendship, how she was hurt over and over again. She spoke about her pain, her anger, her heartbreak. She laid everything bare, the good, the bad, the ugly. She revealed the truth in all its brutal, heartbreaking reality. But here is the craziest part. Kimmi didn't deny it. She was stunned, speechless, frozen. She didn't try to defend herself. She didn't argue. She didn't fight back. She just stood there, exposed, vulnerable, defeated. Her lies had been shattered. Her facade had been destroyed. Her reputation had been ruined. Everyone was staring at her, judging, questioning, doubting. Her world was crumbling around her, and she couldn't do anything to stop it. She was trapped, cornered, helpless, and she knew it. This is how the truth bomb fell, loud, explosive, and destructive. It shattered the silence. It broke the illusion. It ended the lie. It changed everything. Friendships were ruined, alliances were broken, loyalties were questioned. It exposed the reality that had been hidden for so long, the pain that had been buried for so long, the betrayal that had been ignored for so long. It was the end of an era, the end of a friendship, the end of innocence. It was the moment when everything changed, when nothing was ever the same again. But destiny took an unexpected turn. Instead of gaining sympathy, high fade, backlash. People were shocked, disappointed, angry. They couldn't believe that she had lied, that she had manipulated, that she had played the victim. They felt betrayed, cheated, deceived. They turned against her, criticized her, abandoned her. She was isolated, humiliated, disgraced. Her world was falling apart, and she had no one to blame but herself. She tried to explain, she tried to justify, she tried to apologize, but it was too late. The damage was done, the truth was out, the story was over. You won't believe the chaos that followed after Melody dropped the truth bomb. It was like watching a perfectly built tower collapse in slow motion, dramatic, devastating, and unavoidable. No one was prepared for the fallout, least of all Kimmi. The revelation had shattered everything, her friendships, her reputation, her carefully crafted image, and now she was left standing amidst the ruins, exposed and vulnerable. The aftermath was brutal, relentless, merciless. It was a storm of consequences that no one could have predicted, a whirlwind of reactions that no one could have controlled, a wave of change that no one could have stopped, let me tell you. But cold, friendly, but distant, cheerful, but hollow. Melody felt the walls going up, the distance growing, the friendship slipping away, but she didn't know how to fix it. What makes this story different? The tension wasn't caused by a fight or a betrayal or a misunderstanding. It was caused by silence, by words that were never spoken, by feelings that were never expressed, by problems that were never addressed. Both women were hurting, both women were confused, both women were lost, but neither of them said a word. They were too scared to confront the truth, too scared to face the consequences, too scared to lose each other. So they smiled, they pretended, they acted like everything was fine, and the tension kept growing. But here is the craziest part: everyone around them believed the lie there. Friends, their families, their fans, no one suspected a thing. They were so good at pretending, so good at playing their roles, so good at hiding their pain. No one noticed the hesitation before a hug, the awkward silence after a compliment, the forced laughter at a joke. No one saw the hurt in Kimmi's eyes, the frustration in Melody's voice, the distance between them. Everyone believed they were still best friends, still sisters, still inseparable, and that made the tension even worse. This is how the gathering storm looked: silent, invisible, deadly. It was there in every smile that didn't reach their eyes, in every hug that felt stiff and uncomfortable, in every conversation that was painfully polite. It was there in the way they avoided each other's gaze, in the way they spoke carefully, in the way they chose their words so cautiously. It was there in the way they tried too hard to look happy, in the way they laughed too loud, in the way they smiled too wide. It was there, but no one saw it. Destiny took an unexpected turn when the tension finally reached its breaking point. It happened so suddenly, so explosively, so dramatically that no one saw it coming. One moment they were smiling, laughing, pretending, and the next moment the truth came out, raw, ugly, brutal. All the resentment, all the anger, all the hurt that they had been bottling up for so long came pouring out like a flood. It was loud, it was painful, it was devastating. It destroyed their friendship, shattered their bond, ruined everything they had built together, and nothing was ever the same again. You won't believe how the truth came out. It was like an explosion. Sudden, shocking, and destructive. No one was prepared for it, least of all Kimmi. It happened in the most unexpected way, at the most unexpected time, in front of the most unexpected audience. One moment, everything was normal. Everything was fine, everything was under control, and the next moment Melody dropped a truth bomb so powerful that it shattered everything: friendships, reputations, and illusions. It was a revelation that no one saw coming, a confession that no one was ready for, a truth that changed everything. Let me tell you, this is how it happened. It was just another event, just another gathering, just another evening of socializing and networking. Melody was there, looking as radiant and confident as ever. Kimmi was there too, smiling politely, acting cheerful, pretending that everything was fine. They exchanged greetings, shared a few polite words, posed for pictures. They were good at this: pretending, performing, playing their roles. They had been doing it for so long that it felt natural, almost comfortable. But underneath that facade, the tension was simmering, the resentment was building, the anger was growing. But here is the shocking part: Melody wasn't planning to reveal the truth that night. She had no intention of causing a scene, no desire to start a drama, no plan to ruin the evening. But then she overheard. This is how the aftermath unfolded. It started the moment Melody finished speaking. The room was silent, heavy, suffocating, deafening silence. Everyone was in shock, too stunned to speak, too shaken to react. Eyes widened in disbelief, mouths dropped open in astonishment. Heads turned to look at Kimmi. She was standing there, frozen, pale, trembling. Her mind was racing, her heart was pounding, her world was collapsing. She felt exposed, vulnerable, humiliated. She felt like she was standing naked in front of a judgmental crowd with nowhere to hide, nowhere to run, nowhere to escape. But here is the shocking part: no one came to her defense, not one person. People she had trusted, people she had relied on, people she had manipulated, they all turned away. They were too shocked, too confused, too conflicted. They didn't know what to believe, who to trust, where to stand. They didn't know how to process the truth, how to reconcile the lies, how to understand the betrayal. So they did the only thing they could: they distanced themselves from Kimmi. They avoided her gaze, they walked away, they left her alone, and she stood there isolated, abandoned, devastated. This is where it gets interesting. The backlash was immediate and overwhelming. News of the revelation spread like wildfire, faster than anyone could have imagined. Social media exploded with reactions: shock, anger, disappointment, outrage. People were talking about it everywhere, in comments, in tweets, in posts, in stories. They were dissecting every word, analyzing every detail, debating every fact. They were taking sides, forming opinions, making judgments, and almost everyone was against Kimmi. They called her a liar, a manipulator, a fake. They accused her of playing the victim, of spreading rumors, of betraying Melody. They tore her apart piece by piece, without mercy, without hesitation, without remorse. What makes this story different: Kimmi didn't just lose her reputation, she lost her identity. Everything she had built, everything she had achieved, everything she had become was based on a lie. And now that lie was exposed, that facade was destroyed, that illusion was shattered. She was no longer the victim. No longer the hero, no longer the role model, she was the villain, the liar, the manipulator. She was hated, criticized, ostracized. She was judged, condemned, punished. She was nothing, and that realization was more painful than anything Melody could have said, anything. The public could have done, anything her friends could have felt. But here's the craziest part: Melody didn't gloat, didn't celebrate, didn't rejoice. She was relieved that the truth was out, yes, but she was also heartbroken. She never wanted things to end this way, never wanted to hurt Kimmi, never wanted to destroy her. She had loved her, trusted her, cared for her. She had considered her a friend, a sister, a confidant. And now that bond was broken, that friendship was ruined, that love was gone. Melody felt victorious, but empty. Justified, but guilty. Strong, but broken. She had fought for the truth, and she had won, but the price was too high. The cost was too great. The loss was too painful. This is how the aftermath unfolded. Painful, brutal, heartbreaking. It was there in every friendship that ended, every alliance that was broken, every loyalty that was questioned. It was there in every tear that Kimmi shed, every sleepless night that she spent, every regret that haunted her. It was there in every rumor that was spread, every judgment that was passed, every insult that was thrown. It was there in every smile that Melody faked, every laugh that she forced, every moment that she missed Kimmi. It was there in every silent goodbye, every broken promise, every shattered dream. It was there, and it was devastating. But destiny took an unexpected turn just when everyone thought it was over, just when everyone believed that the story was finished, just when everyone accepted that the damage was irreparable. Kimmi made a choice. She chose to fight back, to defend herself, to tell her side of the story. She refused to be the villain, refused to be the liar, refused to be the manipulator. She decided to share her truth, her pain, her struggles, her regrets. She admitted her mistakes, apologized for her lies, explained her actions. She asked for forgiveness, for understanding, for another chance, and people listened. Some forgave her, some supported her, some believed her, others didn't. They were too hurt, too betrayed, too disappointed. They couldn't forget the lies, couldn't forgive the manipul, couldn't trust her again. The world was divided. Some stood with Kimmi, some stood with Melody, some stood apart. The story was no longer about the truth, no longer about the betrayal, no longer about the lies. It was about forgiveness, about redemption, about healing. It was about moving on, letting go, starting over. It was about learning, growing, changing.